Hello, it's John. So we have new suspension fitted and we are leaving the petrol station. I've just been picking up, or gas station as it's called in other places in the world.
Take the next left towards Bridgend Terrace, B9024, then turn right onto
That's
Bridgend
really weird.
Terrace.
It's like the GPS is telling me to go in a circle. I'll just not go in a circle.
B947, 15 miles.
So I'm going to talk to you about the Matrix today. A couple of you have been asking about the Matrix and what is it, and also what happens afterwards. And I will read out the question regarding what happens, kind of life after the Matrix. There's a great YouTube title. Just before we go into that, I want to thank you all for... I posted the video for driving up here, so I'm currently in northeast Scotland, and I drove up after yesterday's live stream, which finished at 6:30 p.m. my time, arrived up here at a place called Turriff, Turriff, at 11:30 p.m. I managed to get sleep by somewhere between maybe 12:30 and 1 a.m. Woke up, drove up to the garage at TCC Services, who installed the new air suspension system at the back of the vehicle. And the reason I say all this is because this is the first drive I've done where the air suspension's fitted at the back. So if you don't know much about these vehicles, maybe you don't care, but a lot of vans, certainly in the UK, it's slightly common across the world, and I feel it's partly due to the load that they're designed to take. You know, so a lot of these, this is built on a Peugeot Boxer chassis, and so it's really built to be a vehicle, I'm guessing, around 1.5 tons, and it can take about the same again in load. Now this is now a motorhome, so that's extra weight on top, you know, the big box at the back behind me for living in, it's called the habitation quarters, that takes up weight. This vehicle is rated to 3.5 tons, and it weighs something like well, it has a capacity of around 7 or 800 kilograms. So it can take about 3/4 of a ton in load, which is amazing. And there's no way you'd fit it. I don't know where you put all that in this van. So first impressions of the air suspension is great. It's definitely smoother. I know it's still noisy, right? You're still going to get noisy driving videos from me. I do, in my personal opinion, feel that the noise is a bit more reduced. And yeah, I've experimented with some AI audio filters. I'll just continue to explore options. For now, there's no audio filter on this. You're hearing exactly what I hear. So it's literally just like you're sat next to me. Okay, back to the Matrix. Let's start with the definition of the Matrix, and then we'll go on to the it was warning me about speed limit of 50 here, so down to 50 miles an hour. It's quite cool because we get to see the drive I did last night now during the day, and also now about an hour longer, I expect, due to traffic. So the Matrix. What is the Matrix? So it has a few meanings, or should I say, different people will refer to the Matrix in different ways. And I tend to use it very broadly, and where I'm more specific, such as the dark matrix, you'll know a bit more. I can talk a bit more about that, but I'll introduce the high-level concepts first. Okay, first, so the term matrix, clearly it's a word. It's existed before the movie The Matrix, or should I say the movies, the franchise. I recommend watching the Matrix movies, even if you don't like sci-fi or fantasy or action, and they are great action movies. The power of the Matrix movies is that it helps challenge us into our thinking about the potential illusion that we're living in. So that's helpful, right? I think we just passed on the right there. Sorry, I'm really distracted by the the difference in driving. It feels very different. A very different vehicle. Much more like a car, because the rear suspension is now in airbags. Oh, and you can adjust the airbags, right? So you can level it up or level it down. At the moment, I chose slightly higher and harder than average, or the default setting, because I know it's windy and it's wet, and I wanted to have just a little bit more stability. So it might actually be causing a little bit more noise as a result. So there's always still hope for a bit less noise. The Matrix movies are a great start, and if I choose the concepts, right, of the Matrix, which is that we're living in a simulation. That's the first kind of thing to reflect on, is that this reality around us is a simulation. So that's the first thing. The second is that the simulation is actually controlled. In the case of the Matrix movie, it is controlled by machines, by AI, and that they are using humans to power the Matrix, using the bodies of humans as batteries, while they keep the minds busy in the Matrix simulation. And I do resonate with some of the messages, such as, you sometimes see a meme or a message saying, the most shocking thing about the Matrix movies are that they're real, and I resonate with the power of that. Do I personally believe that my physical body is somewhere else, in being kind of farmed for its electricity supply to power this simulation around me? No, that doesn't feel quite right. But what I do feel is it's really powerful, and in many respects, kind of even worse than that. You see? And I'll come on to that in more detail, right? So that's one kind of definition. When people talk about the Matrix, sometimes they talk about the Matrix movies. Okay. Second, when people say the 9 to 5 Matrix, right? They're referring to working a job, often a salaried job, 9 to 5, like set hours, and the kind of the stereotypical 9 to 5 job is maybe it's a corporate job, maybe it's working in an office, You're part of a big machine. You have very little autonomy. You just turn up and do as you're told each day by your boss, and you work 9 to 5, and that's kind of 35 hours, 40 hours a week, where you're kind of bound to your job, including desk jobs. And then, just really enjoying these corners. I'm such a moto geek. You definitely feel in those jobs. I've done quite a few 9 to 5 jobs. In fact, really, arguably 26 years of 9 to 5 jobs. Even though the hours were often rarely 9 to 5, the kind of paradigm of having to turn up at a specific time, leave at a specific time, be paid a set amount every month, do as you're told every day, work really hard, and the other term, and I know it's not a pretty term, it is a term that sadly resonates with me, is a salary slave or wage slave. And as my son, I've quoted my son many times with his beautiful statement about when I worked at Amazon for 8 years. He said it was like golden handcuffs. Pay you a nice big salary and just really focus all your energy into the work and never leave, right? And there's a huge amount of, especially Western, but not just Western, cultural, societal programming around the 9 to 5 matrix. And they include things like, they have connections into things like the American dream, as I perceive it anyway. I don't live in America, but I have worked. I continue to work with Americans for over, I think it's like 2001 I started working with people in America. And I've never stopped since. In all my jobs, I've always worked with people in America. And I'd say a lot of the same dream, it's just we don't really have a UK or Scotland dream, right? We do subscribe to many of the same, not all, but many of the same aspects of the dream. So in my personal experience, I used to subscribe to this ideology of learning, earning as much as possible, and the salary that I earn is very much the salary that I earn is very much an indication, a measure of my own success, and at the time it was also a measure of my own self-worth, and that's terrifying. That terrifies me. I don't know about you guys. So if you get a pay cut, you feel worse about yourself and your body and your happiness and your heart. And if you get a pay increase, you feel happier, or at least for a little while, maybe a few days, about yourself, your body, your self-love. They are, so these, even just the salary, the money side is directly hooked as a program. It is directly hooked into our hearts, like the Matrix has got its grubby claws right into the center of our hearts, and that's really scary, right? So there's that, just the salary aspect. Then there's also job title. I was obsessed, right? So I very quickly, just in a few years after being a software developer, I went into management in the early 2000s, and I just worked my way up. And I was hungry, so hungry for the most senior technical job, software job title in a company. And I really spent, I don't know how long it took me to get there, probably about 10 years, which in hindsight is actually really fast. And I had my first technical director or CTO, the Chief Technical Officer job, in 2011. So yeah, that's about 10 years, 9 or 10 years after I started in management. And I was always moving companies. I often found I'd get a pay increase if I moved companies. I found I was good at interviews. It didn't make me happier. It made me very successful through the lens of the matrix, right? If you paid attention to these numbers and status symbols, salaries and job titles, then you'd consider it very successful. But if you watch the movies, The Matrix, I was still like Neo at the start of the first Matrix movie. I was hungry. I was hungry for something else, and that had some. There are periods of relief to that hunger or distraction from that hunger. The birth of my children was a mass felt. They also, while just in the first few years they were being born, so when they were just in their baby and toddler stages, I was in a covers band, and I would play in pubs every weekend or every second weekend. So the absolutely worst time to do it as a father, and yet I had some of the best times there. They were just fantastic. About 5 years in a covers band. So if you ever wonder where, it's not when I started music, but it's where I started to find other parts of me, like my kind of alter ego, Jon Binnie. He was very much born from those experiences. There's other aspects to, buy a house. So if you think about if I just rattle them off, earn a lot of money, have a career that people recognize, a traditional career, if you like, a non-controversial career, buy a big house, go on, have a big car, buy expensive things for you and your family, and go on holidays that were really, really expensive. These are all parts of what I would term the kind of 9 to 5 matrix. And underpinning this is fear about anything else, right? So, for example, if you're not continually earning more and more money, then you're somehow failing in your life, which I don't agree with, right? And some of that is kind of promoted by the cost of living crisis, but that's what we call it in the UK. What is it, like our food is like doubled in recent, price of doubled in recent years. Like our inflation is definitely a roller coaster. So there's these things, these fears. I mean, they're reality too, right? But it's the way these programs are presented to us as part of this matrix that surrounds and underpins every part of our lives, is that it's the only way, right? And yeah, sure, there's some variations to it. Maybe you can work part-time, maybe that's acceptable. Maybe there's some jobs that are a bit more controversial than others, or more alternative than others. There's lots of different ways of viewing this. Yet it's just so fascinating that there's a whole range of these fears around them. So also connected to money and job title is, if you're not, the fear is that if you're not continually progressing upwards, that you'll lose your job, right? Or you'll lose your job. One of the new fears, you're going to lose your job to AI. And it's horrible, right? And what's even crazier is that some people are losing their jobs to AI because they're. I'm just listening to my GPS. it's saying go straight on. This is a really bumpy road. Looks short-lived. Oh, there's a big lorry coming. Hello, big lorry. Okay, let's go across the roundabout. That's better. Nice and smooth. I remember this from last night. Yeah. So there's fears about losing your job to AI, presumably because the people that fund your job or decide whether you have that role in the company, decide that giving it to AI or not making the most of the humans doing the job is what happens. And I have spoken to different employers who are doing this, right? I know people, and I know people that have lost their jobs because of AI decisions. Oh, we don't need you because we just do this with AI now, or we're outsourcing to a company that uses AI to do it. These are all factors, and I get it. Like, I'm not responding to the practicalities or judging the practicalities of it or denying that it exists. It's more that some of it is being used as a fear tactic, right? You can be scared of anything, right? There's no limitation of fear. That's one of the plus sides of it as a weapon against us people. And with things like housing, we've got, in the UK we have super high fuel prices, and including energy for our homes, and there's this feeling of like loss of control, and we're realizing as a country that maybe we shouldn't have been so reliant on imports. So, and that's some of the reasons why I was talking yesterday about 3 Days of Darkness, in that 3 Days of Darkness video. My other driving video, or one of many, is that it's one of the reasons why I personally would like to invest in more energy independence. In fact, I would have gotten rid of completely of gas, natural gas usage in our home as well. It just, financially, it just was, I don't know. Turns out we have a new gas boiler, which I didn't know is almost brand new. So that just seemed like a complete, like we'd just be throwing that out. You'd be throwing away thousands of pounds. Anywho, that's the 9 to 5 matrix. Oh yeah, and the other fears are things like, this fear that it's so, I still find this really funny to say, that the company and your manager, for example, decide your worth. They decide how much to pay you. And fascinatingly, for many jobs, they cap that amount, right? So they put a limit on it. And then maybe they'll give you a bit of a bonus sometimes, maybe they'll give you a promotion or a pay rise sometimes, but really, they're going to pay you as much as they feel you're worth and you contribute to the business, and then they take any profits. So if you ever wonder why your CEO or your directors of the board or senior leaders and managers in your company seem to be so rich, where are they getting all their money from? You're actually working extra hours to line their pockets, right? And again, that was lost on me. Like, I didn't realize, I didn't realize that I never consciously understood for literally 26 years that I was paying for my manager's salary. Me. I was paying for it. And you're thinking, well, how does that work, John? Surely customers pay your manager is so great, and they manage all these people, and that's a great responsibility, so of course they deserve to earn more. It's like, well, hang on, where does the money actually come from? it doesn't come from the manager themselves, it doesn't come from their bank account, right? It comes from the customers, and really you're the one that's doing the work for your customer, and your manager just tells you what to do and takes some money, right? So if you don't have a manager and you're brave enough to tell yourself what to do, you don't need to pay for your manager. And so right now, it's quite funny, I had an email today, someone was interested in, it was like the assistant for someone who was interested in joining a podcast, and they said, this will impress your manager in the email. And I looked at it and I was like, I don't have a manager, right? So I'm not paying for a manager. I don't have a boss, I'm not paying for them. And I love that. And nor would I expect people to pay for me, right? I want to pay for myself. I want to earn the money myself. So anyway, you might find some of these concepts confusing or disagree, or it might leave you with more questions. But let's just say, so far, regarding the Matrix, first is a reference to the Matrix movies. Please watch them if you haven't, especially the first 3. And even that, if you can't do that, watch the first 1. And then the second part is the 9-to-5 Matrix. This, salaried job, a kind of safe prison cell, if you like, of a life and a lifestyle and dreams connected with it. Okay. Ooh, a farm shop in Delhi, that was nice. So next is the what I often refer to as the dark matrix. What is the dark matrix, John? And so sometimes it's still called a matrix for short, right? I'm trying to get in the habit of just calling it the dark matrix. What is it? It is an ancient, at very least thousands of years old technology that visualize it wrapping around the outside of our planet, and it suppresses and controls the human race. Now, that's why I call it dark, right? Because that is a low vibration intention. And it exists as a kind of overlay, like literally a dark web. Imagine like a spider's web wrapped around the outside of the planet, and it does a whole load of things, and I feel that I'm not even fully aware of all of the things that it does. One of the main objectives is to keep us in fear, right? So keep the humans in fear, because you may have noticed this about us and about yourself, is that humans, as a human race, we are highly programmable. We're like bio intelligence, right? We're like a walking, talking robot that we're so programmable, we can program ourselves, right? We can literally say to our minds, smile and be happy, and it if you do it long enough every day, it actually has an effect, right? That you actually, your body and your heart and all of you goes, oh wow, I can even just very slightly, out of a scale of 0 to 100, and 100 is the ultimate perfection of happiness, I can just move up 1 point in a day just by talking positively to myself. It's phenomenal, right? And this is a lot of the design of the dark matrix around us, including programs of fear through things like mainstream media, including social media, anything that propagates fear, because fear is addictive. That's a whole concept to reflect on, right? Is what fears are you addicted to? I'm addicted to the end of the world. I'm addicted to aliens being evil. Or I'm addicted to demons taking over sheep as we pass them. fear can be in anything, and we can kind of like get addicted to the feeling of being in fear, because weirdly there's safety in fear, right? Is that almost like sitting in a dark cave that's dripping on you constantly and closing the cell door behind you to stop the storm coming in, like you're imprisoned yourself, and you're like, I think I feel safer here because I'm scared of the storm outside, and I'll just keep myself in fear about that storm inside here. And yet the reality is, if you just go out and face the storm, it's actually a lot better than spending your life in a cave. My experiences, and these are more metaphysical experiences of the dark matrix, are that as I've come to learn more about it, it is an extraterrestrial technology created by some of those beings, let's call them beings, that still to this day influence some of our world leaders, maybe even all, and people, the extremely rich and wealthy or elites. These beings that influence these humans were originally responsible for the construction of this dark matrix technology. It exists in part in 3D. In particular, exists in the fourth dimension, almost like something sitting above the very existence, instead of just being in the physical, where it's much easier to see and to smash up and destroy. It's much more in the fourth dimension, where it's more energy based than it is physical, and there's like these nodes all around the outside, a bit like our internet, but dark and horrible. Exists around the atmosphere, and they also reach deep into the earth. I learned very recently that one of the other reasons to create the dark matrix was because people such as you and I in our past lives, I know I did, I don't know about you, is help shut down, deactivate the ley lines of Earth. This was between 3,000 and 4,000 years ago, to stop them being weaponized by beings with negative intentions towards the planet. So when we did that, and they can no longer use the ley lines against us, the very nervous system, the very meridians and chakras of the planet, of Mother Gaia, against us, they relied on the dark matrix to suppress and attack us, right? And it's a huge undertaking to build such a thing. The good news is, right, it's already in the process of being dismantled. You and I never agreed to having a dark matrix, right? However, those of us that feel a bit comfortable in fear and are a bit addicted to fear, and if that fear is propagated by this dark matrix, these kind of semi-artificially intelligent nodes that connect around outside of our atmosphere and beneath the earth, that if we're kind of comfortable with that and we give our power to that, to those fears, then we're kind of saying yes to this. We're implicitly saying yes to the dark matrix. And to be absolutely 110% clear, I do not say yes. Me personally, I decide I don't want a dark matrix. Please dissolve, please disappear. And more recently in my skywatching videos, if you go to the YouTube, my YouTube channel homepage, you'll see there's a skywatching playlist. I think I call it Psychic Skywatching. And there you'll see me talking about and interacting with orbs in the sky I'm really fascinating with this recent guidance I was given from my spirit guide or spirit guides, Maya and Marita, the mantis. Maya is an earth elemental. Is that we there's a recent peer-reviewed scientific paper which has been published, which describes 35,000 unidentified craft structures in our skies moving, and often in formations that existed before we launched our first satellite, Sputnik, in, when was that, 1949 or something? 48, 49? So that is, it's a super interesting paper, and I'd love to read it. It fascinates me, and I immediately after watching, I watched News Nation and Ross Coulthart talking about it, and he was interviewing the doctor, the scientist that published the paper. So they think that was just the northern hemisphere, and there's about so the guess is 70,000 for all of the world. And these objects, so I asked my spirit guide Maya and spirit guides Maya and Marita, and they said, John, it's the dark matrix. They are the moving formation of the dark matrix. And I'm like, you're joking, right? Like these are like these nodes that I was describing. They are structured craft that we're about to go onto the is it the A90 we're going onto? Like a fast road? That'd be good. Enjoy that. So yeah, that was their message. They said, yeah, these objects you're detecting, the vast majority, not every single 35,000 of them, but the vast majority are all part of the dark matrix. And they said, John, you know this, you've already been told this. And it's like, oh, have I? And I said, yes. I'd actually channeled some of these crafts, connected with them psychically while filming them. And they said, because some of the craft, they look like they're chasing other craft. And I said, what are you guys doing? And they said, oh, we're clearing up. We're clearing up the skies. We're clearing up the dark matrix. I was like, oh, it's just, you know what it's like being psychic. You know this because you're psychic too. Everyone is. Is that when you receive something, it takes some time to integrate, right? And clearly I hadn't fully integrated that. Now that I've asked it's been told to me once, and I've fully integrated or not fully, but at least to that point, that there's a dark matrix of these craft in our atmosphere. It is fascinating to me. It explains a lot why when we're filming, it's not just me. Other people have Aurora Pro night vision cameras. So here we go into the fast road. This is cool. This will be the first motorway driving with my new suspension. I'll just concentrate as we get up here. Brum brum. Oh, I like this nice long slip road. Wow, it's quiet. I guess it's kind of midday Friday. Oh, we can use cruise control as well. Wow, this is luxury. Wow. You might still hear a lot of rattles. One of the loudest is we have a bed. It's like it's a bed that moves up and down with electric motor, and it comes down from the ceiling. It's actually my son's bed. That rattles a lot, which I'm sure I can look into reducing the annoyance. What's harder is just behind me, there's a step that hangs down. It's the lowest part of the vehicle. And when you're driving in the wet like this, it just constantly accumulates. It's almost like it's trying to suck up the water of the road. And it's exactly how it sounds inside. So it's a bit of a distraction, but who cares? In time, I might learn how to sorry about it. But it's just the way the vehicle's designed. Oh wow, look at this rain. I am so glad I'm driving with now much better suspension. It's so much smoother. The handling of the vehicle is so much better in these winds. Wow. So smooth. You can probably hear the rain, right? I'm sure the microphone's picking it up. Oh, this is really steep. Let me change gear. Wow. I think I remember this driving up here. You do go, even though it's a motorway, there are some steep highland hills. I bet you're watching this thinking, I know I was thinking of coming to Scotland. I was thinking of visiting, but does it rain a lot? Yes. It does rain a lot. Not usually as heavy as this. This is quite rare. That was one reason why I got I filled up with fuel, just a full tank, even though I probably had enough to get home, because you just don't know, you know, if you're going to get stuck somewhere due to floods. And I have food and water and a change of clothes, and I can heat the van, so if I get stranded somewhere, it'll be alright though. That's so cool. Look at this bridge. It has trees on it. Wow. That's unexpected. Oh, this one too as well. I'm not sure I've ever seen that. And I don't think they're weeds. They look like trees. Oh, I'm going to sneeze and there's nothing I can do about it. Wow. Excuse me. You're getting all the sounds today. Okay. Back on cruise control. Oh, it's like a breath of fresh air. I feel finally my bones are warming up, which is great. So we're talking about the dark matrix, the ships, these orbs in the sky. I mean, personally, I feel like I'm still discovering these, and they're and connecting with a lot of the beings that are helping tidy them up. If you're wondering who is helping tidy up the dark matrix and the structured craft as they've been identified, and we see them with our night vision cameras in particular, they are visible with the naked eye. It's just you would think it was a satellite, and they're quite hard to pick out lightly. Now that I'm starting to integrate this as a concept, right? Lightly, I'll be able to discern, right? And you can try this yourself. Look at moving objects. For example, you might believe that at face value that they're satellites, right? Because they look very similar. But there's a few key kind of giveaways. One is satellites, a lot of them, I don't know if it's all, but a lot of them seem to go from west to east. Is that right? Let me know in the comments. And whilst it's true, some of these dark matrix craft do also follow that pattern. There's also, they also seem to interact. If you do watch enough of these videos, or just watch the skies yourself, you start to see that there's a bit of a a game going on up there, right? These craft are interacting with each other, and some are what looks like chasing each other, and there's also pulses of light, a lot, right? So I'm not saying it's kind of like Star Wars and that they're all fighting each other, but that is the messages that I psychically receive from the craft that are up there along with, and these are extraterrestrial craft along with the Dark Matrix craft, that they're saying to us that they're clearing it up. So presumably they're helping destroy or disarm or reprogram these Dark Matrix nodes or craft. Alright, lots of fun talking about this. We're 45 minutes in, and I've not answered the question yet about what about life after Matrix. So I do have it up in front of me. I kept it on my screen the whole time. It says, alright, this is from Phoenix Rising. Hello, Phoenix Rising. Now, you asked this way back in August the 19th, so you're probably wondering, is Jon ever going to respond? All things in perfect timing, right? And you've asked, how and when will life function without the matrix that controls us? And what does it look like? Do we have jobs, money, government, national borders, property? And you put slashes between each of those. Wow. It's kind of like, I guess the intention of the question is kind of everything all at once. Like what happens to this world after that matrix no longer controls us? And it's true, we can break free from the matrix without it being destroyed, right? Just because we leave it can survive without us. It can also survive as it's a bit like the internet in its structure. It can survive in patches, right? So you can, in pockets, if you like. I don't mean in your pocket. Well, maybe in your pocket, but that's how it can exist. You know, and there are some things you might have noticed in some of our, just a slight tangent, in some of our technologies. Like, how come you can't take batteries out of phones anymore? Like we used to be able to when they first came out in the 90s. Great question, right? Have a think about that. Why do phones have a camera on both sides? Even if you don't need it. Why do you think? In the UK, and this was years ago, our parliament passed a law, and it was an anti-terrorism law, where they have the right, without asking you, to access your phone's devices, audio and video, without you knowing. So why do you think, and well, it'll be your GPS as well, why do you think they enjoy making sure the battery's there, right? And even when you turn off a phone, it's not actually turned off. It still uses battery. Some of this reminds me of the Terminator movies. Yeah, before we answer the question, there's this woman, I've totally forgotten her name. I came across her story on Project Camelot many years ago, Project Camelot on YouTube, which I believe is still going. And the story was that, her story, should I say, is that she wrote the books and the scripts, the story of the Terminator movies and the Matrix. And that actually the Terminator movies are a precursor to the Matrix. Isn't that awesome? Or not awesome, depending on how you think about it. So there's something to feel into yourself, you know. We could do a whole separate video on that, right? But I just wanted to introduce that into your mind to reflect on, and do your own research. You know, find out who this lady was. I know she was taking various people to court, claiming that you know, she wasn't getting credit for the movies, the 2 movie franchises, and so on. When I heard her talk on the Project Camel video, she felt very incredible. We're going too fast. My cruise control's like not able to slow me down on this steep hill. Wow, I can actually feel my ears popping a bit as we go lower. So to the question, was it Phoenix Rising? Is that your name? Or Rising Phoenix? So that question of what happens after the Matrix? Well, first of all, it starts now, right? It's happening now, and it includes people like me who have chosen to leave at very least the 9-to-5 Matrix. And I know the 9-to-5 Matrix is like a kind of, the term itself is an example, right? It's not saying that only people that work 9-to-5, literally those hours, are in the Matrix. No, it means that it's an example. So if you work 10-to-6, which I used to do, and arguably I still do about 10 to 6:30, 3 days a week at least. You know, depending on what your hours are, whether you're salaried or not, whether you have a bonus or not, whether you're on commission or not, whether you're a contractor or not, like these are all the huge, massive, diverse variations of kind of all of the above. Oh, there's a roundabout coming up. How exciting. So a big thing, I can talk from my personal experience because that's like dead easy, right, for me, because no one's a better expert on me than me, so far. The really fascinating experience I've had is when I left my corporate job. Last 8 years was at Amazon, and I was working in a corporate office in the centre of Edinburgh. Very nice, beautiful corporate office, right above the Waverley train station, called Waverley Gate, with about 500 other people in an office. And I was working there most of the time. I was working there 5 days a week, and then I went part-time for the last couple of years. Wow, so you maybe can't see on camera, but there's a huge hill above us. It's so funny seeing, only in Scotland do you get a motorway and it goes up a massive hill. I don't know what accent or what part of Scotland that accent is meant to be. Not very good at doing the northernly accents. I love the variety of Scottish accents. Let's see how we get up. Will we make it up in 5th gear or drop to 4th? Let's see. This lorry's doing well. It's battling on up the hill with a load at 50 miles an hour in the rain against the wind on a Friday. My experience of leaving, you know, I spoke about some of the fears of leaving a 9-to-5 Matrix, right? Matrix job, if you like. And it is a bit like Neo in the Matrix movies. He's like don't even know what his job's meant to be, like some sort of computer analyst or something. Maybe I should have paid attention. Maybe I should watch all the movies again. But he's like, it's the young, or he seems young. I think he's actually 30 or so but he seems like he's in his early 20s. The forever young Keanu Reeves, who's in his 60s, right? And now, and he's in many respects he's younger than me, in my late 40s. In the movie, he's kind of like a drone, right? He's just another or non-player character from the gaming world that term, and he just gets on and does as he's told in his corporate job. The experience that I had in leaving that is that first of all, there's literally no help, right? There's our local government and our national government offer you nothing. There is no one to advise you about, oh, by the way, here's a low interest business loan to help get you started, or here's some guidance about, here's things you need to know, here's some free training about the key things you need to know when you start your business. No, it's just like literally, good luck, go and figure it all out. And actually, one of the biggest things that's really helped me is finding a really good accountant. The first accountants I had weren't a great fit for me. Maybe they would be for others. My current accountants are fantastic because they are phenomenal at explaining the difficult and challenging things to me anyway, and that lightly simple to other people in layman's terms, so that I can digest it and understand it. And I've just about got a 90-95% understanding of how all these things work. Mainly taxes, also how you account for your work, and many more dimensions to it. So it was definitely, as I left, I definitely had to rely on a lot of what I'd already learned about business. And what I'd learned, in particular Amazon, but also from some of the small startups. I've worked for quite a few small startups where, you're literally the one building your desk on the first day when you turn up. You're the guy doing cleaning as well as being the technical director. You're the guy that's then going on and hiring tons of people. And I was doing everything. I actually really enjoyed doing things from scratch, building teams from scratch, really building those parts of the business from scratch and making them really successful, and in almost all examples, highly profitable for the company. And yet, I didn't have much experience of the finance side. Almost, well, some. Like I had an idea about how to cost things. I had no idea how to financially plan, how to pay taxes, what sort of work you need to pay, what sort of taxes on. It's in the UK anyway, it's certainly complex, even for just a business where it's just me. It's just one employee. So I found that those experiences of leaving that matrix of Amazon and the corporate 9-to-5 matrix, that I'd learned a lot. So if I kind of relate this to the rest of the world, we do know how, as a human race, how to create services for other people that that are valuable to them, and that people will then give us back something in return, right? And at the moment, we just default to money because we're somewhat lazily relying on money, even though it's this kind of weird abstract, and it is a proxy for value, and that larger amounts of money are higher value and the smaller amounts of money are lower value, and yet many people don't even understand the word value. Like, what do you mean, John? Because that was me. I was like, what do you mean by value? And the reality is, not everyone would pay the same price in the world for a glass of clean water, or the same house, right? People will pay these. Everything in the world has a different value. Value is in the heart and consciousness and eyes of the beholder. It is not in the and ultimately the person that, if it's money, for example, that it's abstracted to, then something's only worth what someone else will pay for it. And I've also found on that journey, the exploration of the term value, I found really bizarre things, such as, you know, when I left, and I think, you know, I used to charge a lot less for my services, and you might think, oh great, that would have been great, John, I wish I'd known then. Wish I'd booked the session then. Maybe you should have. Oh, we're doing some roundabout and then a right. My guess is I should... hang on, I go straight on and then I take a right. Okay. So I'm not going the same way as this lorry. So I actually found that you know, some people will think that they won't buy your services because the amount's too low, right? Because we're so used to, we're programmed ourselves to say large amounts of money must mean a high price must mean high value, and the reality is it doesn't, right? But there's an element of that programmed into us and built into us. Now I'm going right. We're going to the A90 behind a lorry with some large steel structure on its back. Just as the lights change. Okay, and now let's... I think I'm going to give this guy some space as we get up here. It's quite a fast lorry, that. Faster than I expected. As we join the... Is this a motorway? No, it's an A road. In the UK, well, in Scotland, an A road means the most important road, whereas I think often in England it means the best, like, quality road as well. As in, the surface is good, the driving's smooth. Whereas here, that's not exclusive. They're not as tightly coupled, because some of our A roads is like, this was the only road we could get across the Highlands, so we just call it an A road, but you're still going to be climbing difficult, windy roads. This one is good, I know this one, and I do feel they've invested a lot in it, which is great. Thank you for this smooth road. Ooh, average speed camera. But, it's 70 miles an hour, of which I'm doing a fraction of that. There is a very scarily slow tractor over to the left here, so let's give him plenty of space. As the lorry overtakes him. I am still loving this air suspension, by the way. I would describe it as less fatiguing to drive. I'm sure I'll get used to it very quickly and just think that it's always like this, and maybe moan about it sometimes. I reserve the right to moan about anything. I'm good at moaning. Where were we? Yeah, so there's paradigms like that, like as we leave this matrix of control and fear, we're set free, right? And there'll be a period when we first leave it as us saying to ourselves as a planet, as a human race, I'm a bit lost. Like, how, if people aren't going to pay me with money, or money gradually starts to take a back seat over years, it feels like many years, well, what else are people going to pay me in? And the simple answer is, well, what do you need? Like, what do you really need? What do you want? I mean, the funniest thing is, it's not the money itself that many of us want. It's the things that money allows us to do that we want. And there are gazillions of different ways for us to explore as a human race of creating, I guess we describe it as like an economy or a way for us to trade. And the cool thing is, what I keep being shown in these predictions is that, why are you going so slow? You're a fast lorry. Why are you down at 40 miles an hour now? I don't know, you just need to slow down, he or she. There's no way I can overtake. I don't have enough. I need more power, Captain, to uphill in the wind and rain overtake that lorry. Although now we're getting close up to the top, maybe I should just overtake it now. How are we feeling? Not really feeling it with the wind. It seems a bit unpredictable. Better to give it space. As tempting as it is to just do it. You may have noticed I'm a bit of a risk taker. So just like I've learned to navigate finances, you know, some things have really shocked me and surprised me on my journey. And the human race, really, we've got to, as a collective and individually, go on our own exploration, our own adventures after the collapse of the Matrix, or should I say, we leave the Matrix, and because it collapses after we've all left it. So, for example, will we use money? If we use money, will we use it in parallel to something else? Will we have jobs that have salaries? Will we have companies? And I'm just kind of reiterating some of the question as well, like, will we have organizations, governments, etc., etc. Oh wow, this lorry is turning right. So we do this thing, we don't do it on motorways in Scotland, in the UK, but we do this thing, and it's legal for me to do what I'm doing now, which is, because he's turning right, I can undertake him, as it's called, pass him on the left side, or her. But yeah, they have like these really scary entrances and exits from these roads, and they're the same speed as the motorways, except they just stick a, you know, you can have cars drive, and lorries, even scarier, drive right across in front of you, from one side of the road to the other, to join a road. I think we're just passing one on the right here. Like, oh my god, they are just terrifying. A big slow lumbering lorry that couldn't even see you coming around the corner. They are terrifying, but I get why they exist in, especially in rural Scotland. So I'm always keeping my eye out for them. You can see some drivers are very enthusiastic in their speed, despite the weather. And they're probably looking at me going, oh, you're so slow. You're just a big slow box. Like, I'm being safe. You can choose what you want to do. And to answer in short what I've seen in these predictions that we will, and this starts as early as next year, by the way, so get ready. I've seen that we break free from this matrix, and we realize that there's more to life than just money. And there's a gradual, this takes us conceptually a bit longer, we gradually realize that our self-care, self-love, family time, love for each other, happiness, health, they are more valuable, because right now those things are zero in money, right? You can't buy them, or most of them. It's our money system is like, oh, you want to love each other? You want to focus on that? You want to love yourself? Oh, I can't help you. Like you're gonna have to like figure that out yourself, like how you cultivate that. And that through, I teach this in my Heartline business mentoring, is that it's our self-care and self-love that fuels our body to be able to do anything, right? Because without proper self-care and self-love, our bodies are quickly degraded in health. We call it dis-ease with the experiences of our negative self-talk, negative, not self-love, self-hatred, not looking after our bodies. We burn ourselves out. Like I've been there, and I've been there recently again, earlier this year in close to burnout, and being really harsh in my body. And it's not about just pretending your body's a robot and looking after the robot. It's about really loving, because the love energy is so much stronger than anything else. And the more you love, I call it my self-love approach to business. It fuels my creativity. I open my heart to receiving miracles. I open my heart and solar plexus to receiving abundance of time with my family, time and energy and happiness and health in my joy, doing my passions, as well as my business. All these apply to my business too. And that I am my business. So these are powerful shifts that they're going to take time, right, for us to all get our heads around it. And I'm not saying I have all the perfect answers. I'm just saying this is the predictions I've been shown, and that I've received from my spirit guides and Gaia, Galactic Federation, and other high vibration beings. I've also witnessed when I've channeled other extraterrestrial races, including Lyrans, for example. I was really fascinated about do they have money? Do they have monetary systems? And so there's a shift from us working for large global centralized organizations where all the profit is centralized in the pockets of a few, of a minority. Instead of that, we become much more federated. We become much more like families, clans, communities, teams. And that fascinates me about Amazon, because Amazon, when I worked there for the first 4 or 6 years in particular, it's becoming less so now, so I hear. It was really a concept, we called it 2 pizza team, which was about 8 people. Apparently it takes 8 people to eat 2 American pizzas. I don't know, I've not eaten those pizzas before. Big for UK standards. But each 2 pizza team would be autonomous, right? The difference was that all your profit went to, the famous Jeff and now Andy CEOs, for example, and their friends, right? So you do all the hard work, and then, they would reap the profit, literally. And then they'd give you a little share of that through shares, a bit like bonuses. The really fascinating shift is that it's now, what I was shown is, and I remember Natasha Rocha, my friend, has spoken about when she's accessed the Akashic Records and looked to humanity's future, has seen that she described it more like contractors, that, you know, we work more like contractors, you know, in that it is, we are individual, autonomous, you know, professionals, if you like, offering specific services to help others. And so not entirely dissimilar to the way Natasha and I individually work, right? I know that Natasha talks about this publicly, so I'm okay to share. You know, one difference with us is that I don't pay anyone else other than my accountant, right? And I know Natasha also has someone that helps her with social media, for example, and marketing and advertising. So those aspects I just do myself. And with that in mind, why are they flashing their lights? Don't really know. Every time I see our highway maintenance vehicles, I always want to sing "Highway to the Maintenance." Maybe it's because there's danger in their jobs that I enjoy singing them. So that's a shift that Natasha sees, and I agree with that. I don't use the word contractor, but what I do resonate with is individual professionals, if you like. And when I've asked more questions about, okay, if we're not using money, because we're so, like, humans existed for a long time before money turned up, right? Before money, what did we use? And this really connects with, the answer really connects with some of those channelings that I've had, for example, from Lyrans, is when I asked them about their economies, is that, first of all, remember, you're not going to have to pay for your CEO anymore, right? All those billions of dollars and pounds, whatever your currency is, you don't have to pay them anymore. So, good news, you don't have to work as much each week. And it's something like a day a week. You don't have to work because you don't have to give them money. It might be, for some of us, it might be as much as 2 days a week. You know, you don't have to pay for your CEO, you don't have to pay for your manager. Good news, right? You just get to those things, those supposedly big, difficult, you know, super hard decisions to make. You're going to do that yourself. And if you don't know how to do it, you're going to learn, right? And if you're not very good at it, other people will help you. They'll give you advice, you can go and talk to them. You can talk to people like me, right? And the other cool thing is that you only actually need, for you individually, out of the 5, is this right? It's something like about, if I remember this right, it's about, out of the 5-day working week, out of the kind of 9 to 5, 5 days a week, remove 1 day of that because you don't need to pay for your CEO anymore, and remove a second for about your manager or thereabouts and all the overheads of the organization that you used to work for. You're now down to 3 days a week. Guess what? You don't even need that amount of money, right? What you'll end up doing is working, you only really need to work about 2 days a week for all the things you need. And then the third day, you're actually going to work to give your excess abundance to others. Now you might be thinking, what on earth is Jon talking about? This is a long video and he's lost his mind. Why would I work for just random strangers? And it's really similar to the way I work, right? Right now, I work 3 days a week of client sessions, And I have a fourth day, you could argue, where I'm doing free work, right? So I frankly don't care who you are in the world. I'm offering you, every single human in the world that has a device that can access, for example, YouTube and an internet access, I offer you the service of a free 14-day Spirit Guide meditation challenge that you can repeat as often as you like. I offer you a series of free meditations. I offer you fifth dimensional ascension classes, because if you choose to go through your open heart awakening, you can join this class, and you can do whatever you want. Like, you can learn all the things, all the psychic and energetic and meditation, spirit guide things you want to learn, right? And you can do what you want with it. It is public information, public. I give that to the world for free. And some of our 9 to 5 matrix programming, and this also like connects into the dark matrix, is this feeling of, oh no. If someone's lazy, right, and can't be bothered like earning enough money or working to earn enough money to pay for things, then I don't want to give them stuff for free. So instead, you charge for stuff, right? And to stop these people from being able to do it. And then, strangely, through your tax system or benefit system, as part of the matrix, the 9 to 5 matrix, you give them money to be able to buy the things from you that actually you could have given them the things they needed for free in the first place, instead of, because every time you earn money and then it goes somewhere, there's like you pay the tax to your government, there's inefficiencies in every step. The more steps you have, the greater the wastage, and so you're wasting quite a lot of energy, having a government that measures your tax, collects the tax inefficiently, pays a benefit system that's never perfectly efficient or fair or just. Why not just give everyone stuff for free? And if you have a problem with people that aren't contributing enough to your culture, society, then have that conversation with them. Instead of just creating barriers for them to actually be able to get out of that trap. In the UK we call it a benefits trap, where some people consider that we pay too much for benefits or give people too much for benefits, and that they find it very difficult to then be motivated to get out of it. And I think that is a vast oversimplification of the real problems. For example, if someone has mental health issues, just trapping them in that situation and then blaming them for being there is not going to help. Like, why not? Why can't we just help each other with our mental health? So you might be wondering that point, well, why, John, why would you give, like, John, why do you bother? John, why do you create songs every day, meditations, the Highest John videos? Why do you create 5D Ascension classes and the new Heart Aligned business mentoring? Why not just charge everyone? Why not just create? I have a YouTube membership, right? It's £2.99 a month. Why don't you just create a new tier of that, right, and then charge everyone for this service? Like, because I'm literally giving away some of the best content I can create in that moment for teaching people how to develop their psychic abilities, for example. And other people charge huge amounts of this, thousands and thousands of dollars. I'm just doing it for free. And like, why would Jon do that? And it's, well, in part, it's because I have a clear intention. Well, this is the main objective for me. Is because I want to help as many people as possible. Okay, but not everyone's going to choose that once we leave the, or as each of us leave the 9-to-5 matrix and the dark matrix. And that's okay. Like, you don't need to have the same mission as me. Right? There's loads of people that don't. And loads of people that I mentor don't have the same mission as me. There's similar themes, and it's a lovely idea. Doesn't it feel lovely for me to say, oh, I just want to help as many people around the world as possible, right? But when you actually feel into it, it's just one choice. Because you could choose, what if I chose, for example, to say, well, why don't I just change my mission to only help, to just focus on people who can help others, right? So, well, that's interesting. Good, because surely me just helping a load of people directly is less efficient, right? It's like, well, it's a choice. They're just all choices. And I choose to, frankly, I'm doing both. I'm helping loads of people direct, and then helping people by mentoring other people as well. Well, that's interesting. A beeping noise. Usually that beeping noise happens when I'm running out of water. Or it may be the fridge. I have no idea what that beeping noise is. Got plenty of fuel. Yeah, so it's an exploration for me. Personally, I love it. Like, I absolutely love it. I had the best time this week doing the 5D Ascension class and teaching people for free how to learn light language. Now, of course, there's still some 3D matrix paradigms caught up in that. You know, although I don't monetize the 5D Ascension live streams during live, I do monetize the replay. So when you first hit play, you'll get an advert, and I'll get a little bit of money, like literally pennies or maybe a few pounds. I mean, literally in the, like, certainly sub £100 a month. But it all helps, right? And that's why I do it. I turn on the advert, but not during, because I think that is just too much. So when we talk about an example of how do we have money at the same, use money at the same time as giving people what they need, for free in the old 3D matrix paradigm, like, it's a bit of a balance, right? I'm earning enough money to live off and then giving as much as I can for free. And if you ever wonder what my wife and family think of this, is they are, how to describe it, is the word existential right? Maybe, but let's just say ethically they're totally aligned. And it was actually my wife that really encouraged me to continue to do, because at points I'd wondered if I just do one live stream, doing free requests for people with Viviane each week. At times I was thinking of just doing once a week, and my wife said, but it's so good to give back, like, you can give back to people, and it's great practice, and they get to see what you're doing, and just keep, you're earning more than enough, so give back. And it's like, yeah, you're right. And I haven't, this is, by the way, this is the loudest part of the road ever. I drove in it the other way and it's like, wow, it's so loud. It's quieter with the new suspension though. So yeah, I really had that powerful experience. And I do talk a lot. Well, I talk a lot before I stop. I talk to my wife quite a lot about my business and where I focus my effort, and she is absolutely 100% aligned. If anything, keeps encouraging me to do more for others, and I love that. You know, I love it. I don't mean work more hours, I just mean give more away for free. And you know what? Going back to the real needs, when I first went through my awakening, and I realized that I was living in a matrix, in this 9-to-5 matrix at very least, I did not need more money, right? I was earning a lot of money. I was earning a multi-six-figure salary at Amazon. I had a 6-bedroom house. I had later, we bought a holiday let and let out a property near the Scottish borders and let out as a business. Like these are super powerful things. To like, don't just give people more money when it's actually money that's part of the matrix itself. It was one of the first things I touched on, right? So instead, start to feel into what's really important in your life. And I'd say some of those similar things you hear people that have near-death experiences. I have a friend, Scott, who talks very publicly about his near-death experience, that say the same thing. This is a really bad idea. What's that guy doing? Something really strange happened. Car was driving very slowly with his hazards on, chucking a large plastic bag out the window. I don't know if it had hit the vehicle or something. So yeah, his description you hear from a lot of people is even in our culture that, you know, on your deathbed, you're less likely to say, I wish I'd got that promotion. I wish I'd worked harder. I wish I'd stayed late for that meeting. I wish I had spent more time at work, right? Much more likely you're going to say, I wish I'd spent more time and energy with my loved ones, telling them that I love them, telling them that I love them, showing them that I love them, having fun and joy with them. That I'd done more things in my life. And you know, people's bucket lists, as they're termed, are typically orientated around, you know, adventures and excitement and joy and love, and less about money. You know, I just won £1 million. Bucket list item number 1: earn £1 million. Now, you know all this, right? But I'm just referring to these examples. So it very much feels that on our journey as we leave the monetary system gradually disappears and we shift away from centralized organizations. And you know, for example, you might even see oh wow, this is so much better, isn't it? I have to shout so much now, or feel that I have to shout so much. You might even see companies kind of like, it's quite funny, I keep seeing visions of Amazon because I know it well, kind of fragmenting into almost like a service where you can kind of like join the website to sell stuff, right? And I know that kind of exists, but at the moment all the profit's centralized and goes into the pockets of very few. And so that part, the latter part, disappears, but this kind of globally available website exists, but it's supported by many, by global communities, you know, each with their own desire. So you can imagine, for example, if you have the capabilities of developing and running software, that you would maybe do your day job as servicing your own clients 2 days a week, and then a third day a week you'd help support and maintain the global community website where everything's sold. Isn't that beautiful? And you're only doing it 3 days a week. You're still working 2 days less, so the other 2 days you can just do whatever you want. Follow your joy. It sounds too good to be true, and yet it is exactly my experience. And one of the things I'd like to do in my is to show you this, like show you how in my Heart Aligned Business Mentoring. And literally, I'm not trying to sell it to you. I'd love you to come along to my business mentoring live stream and just show you a new way of doing business. And it doesn't make sense, right? Because it breaks away. It's in many respects it includes many opposites. You know, it from our 3D. Stop using that word. Our 9 to 5 matrix paradigm. So it shifts instead of working harder and more hours to achieve, it describes working less and opening up to receive. You can tell there's some sound bites in here birthing themselves within my heart. And finally, this is a real long video, right? I have no idea how I'm going to upload it or edit it, but there's this really important aspect, which is over time, the boundaries of countries will gradually become much more flexible and much less rigid, and instead, if it's really funny, right? One of the reasons why we have countries is to stop other people taking our stuff, right? So we defend ourselves. It's not the only reason, right? But it's one reason, right? And it's one kind of reason for our military, right? It's so insane, right? That we pay in Scotland alone billions every year to defend ourselves against other humans, right? But imagine a world where let's say my 5D Ascension classes on YouTube go viral, and there's literally millions of people turn up every week, which would be lovely. I'd love to have them along. That I also pay with the money I earn, right, to the Scotland's military to protect myself against the very people I'm serving, right? It's like, I'm going to need, because in Scotland we have like nuclear submarines. It's like called Trident, and they're really quite old technologies. And you can imagine that, explaining that, saying, we just, I just give, I pay some money in my taxes every month, to, just to make sure that, I know I'm teaching you 5D Ascension classes and you're doing really well at them. Just in case things don't work out, I'm also paying my military a lot, just to defend myself against you. It's like, whoa. And so you can start to feel into, actually, over time, the more and more we help each other, the more we realize that actually, what's the point in spending so much effort defending ourselves against each other, right? Because it's the division of humanity, the fear of humans fearing each other, should I say, is massive. Wars, military generates huge profit. Will we have militaries in the future? I feel likely yes. Every time I connect with extraterrestrials and galactic races, they do have militaries. They feel very different. They feel much more leading by example, you know, warriors. They are defenders. They will, you know, physically and energetically protect people. Yet it's not. They feel much more integrated in society, and I describe it as also much. They are just as much leaders. You know, they're very high. In our terms, we describe this as, in human terms, we describe as high-ranking military roles. I see that with the lions, for example, is that they're also very wise, and that they're also priests and priestesses and you know, sacred teachers and gurus and mentors. So they're not. It's not just all about physical. It includes their hearts and their minds, and they're heavily integrated into they're just a part of their community. So that's beautiful, isn't it? Have I answered all the questions? I think so. Organizations, countries, borders. There might have been something else. So yeah, I hope that's helpful. And all I can say is, if somehow I've managed to upload this 101-minute video and that you've watched it, I'd like to congratulate you. Well done for listening to what I mentally feel like I've been talking a little bit in circles about. I just want to say thank you for sitting next to me in the passenger seat here. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I don't have all the answers. In fact, I don't even have all the questions. Why do you think I asked you guys? It's so cool, right? I ask you for questions. I love that so much. And you know what? This world and the revolution, the evolution of this world is not about the answers. It's about the questions. So for example, if we didn't have the right questions, we might be lazy and say, how will I earn money in the future? A bigger question is, why do we need money? Right? Or why do we need to solely rely on money as a way of trading with each other? And I don't feel like I've fully got my head around different bartering systems, community-based ways of working. I feel like we're all going to explore lots of these different things and come up with the answers and our variety of answers as a human race. And that we'll likely still use money for especially more kind of international and transatlantic exchanges. And so, for example, you know, maybe you'll help feed my family when I'm helping you with your ascension challenges. And at the moment, you do that literally by paying me money, and I'm very grateful for that. Okay. So wrapping this up, you might have in your mind's eye, your heart, when's all this happening? And I have covered this in previous prediction videos. My current gut feeling, without channeling and asking the question, because it's not necessarily the best idea while I've been driving for a while, for a couple of hours, is I'd describe that it feels like this shift as we go through this spring, this new dawn of humanity into spring 2026. That is when this all starts in a larger scale than exists today. So more and more people go through the open hearts awakenings, and then they eventually figure out what they want to do. and also, you know, they want to leave their job, or, and I'd love to see this increasingly, and I actually met people, including people at Amazon, that want to stay in the company and change it from within. And you know what? I admire you, right? That's a harder job than just leaving it, right? And I am inspired. You inspire me, and your bravery, and you know, one individual, for example, the GPS trying to convince me to take a different route. I remember talking to them about it just before I left Amazon, and I just said, "You're so brave," and they had no illusion about trying to falsely keep a company together and running that may no longer be viable. And I'm not saying that's the case for the company at the moment. It seems totally viable. But in terms of the direction towards 5D, no, it's not viable right now. It needs to radically transform and lightly change, as I mentioned, from being a company to being more like a community. And that shift can start from within. It starts from you and I. It's not going to be decided, it's never going to be decided by the people whose pockets it lines, right? They're not going to go, oh, maybe I could just give up 5 billion, quazillion, gazillion, pounds or dollars a month, and oh yeah, we'll just turn the company into a community. Everything's for free, guys. So let's open source the whole company. You know, they're never going to do that, right? Well, not unless they go through their own awakening. And believe you me, if you ever feel trapped and stuck and frustrated with the way the world is, remember, even the people that are the least likely, in fact, you could maybe argue, especially the people that seem the least likely to go through some sort of awakening, their souls may have chosen it. They may already be destined towards that happening. And it can happen overnight. For me, it happened within the space of an hour, right? I was like, I'm awakening! Oh! November 2017 in a 1-hour meditation, right? That was me. That was no going back after that. My soul took that as a trigger. Like, this is it, John. Let's do this. We signed up for this in this lifetime. This is it now. We're doing it now. So please be open to receiving miracles. Oh my God, this is terrifying. Look, there's this. We'd call it a recycling lorry or waste lorry or rubbish lorry, I guess you might call it a trash or dump. Do you call it dumpsters? I can't remember in different countries. Anyway, it crosses this road, right, from 0 miles an hour to whatever. It can do 10 or something as it crosses the road as fast as it can get. And we're driving it up to 70 miles an hour. That blows my mind. So yeah, I hope you find this entertaining at very least. Laugh at me trying to string conversation together for 108 minutes. But thank you so much. It's such an honor, such fun. And whatever you choose to do, whether you choose to go through your own awakening or not, whether you choose to buy something from me or consume my free services, whether you choose to change yourself within, change the company you work for within, change your own company, start your own company, whatever you choose to do, I celebrate you and I'm grateful for you engaging with this video. So thank you so much. Take care, sending so much love. Bye.